Good morning and welcome back to KitchenLab and Design in the Bags, this old coach house project. Here we are at the apartment building where Rebecca and I have lived for many, many years. Right after the great storm of 2011, it's February 3rd in Chicago. Here we are surrounded by snow, no place to put it. The roads are hardly passable, hardly anything is open, and we're back at the house to make sure that everything is not frozen. We're desperately trying to keep it from freezing, and we're going to do a quick tour of the kitchen because we're making final decisions. Rebecca will talk a little bit about that in just a sec. I'm sure you're all getting tired of me talking about how cold it is, but here we are back in this old coach house. Rebecca and I are going to do a kitchen layout tour in a minute, but construction has proceeded until this week where it stopped for 2 days at this point. We don't know how much longer because of this massive storm. It really is fun, but in the meantime we have problems that are, you know, what can be expected when it's 3 degrees as a high today in Chicago. Rebecca's going to pan around the back here and you can see that a lot of the framing has gone in. The upstairs has still not been touched, it's been gutted. Bathroom framing is done. She's standing in what will be the kitchen. We're going to do a tour here in just a second. And back here is going to be an office which can also be converted into an extra bedroom for when people are visiting that don't want to go upstairs or whatnot.
At the beginning of the week, and the guys had already started framing. We had mapped out where the windows were going to go and made a few changes last week. But then when we got here and we saw the opening for what's going to be the office, between the office and the kitchen, we sort of panicked. This is not abnormal. Panic in framing stages happens all the time. And basically what we went through was the following. We framed this out at 12 feet because we were going to do 2 3-foot pocket doors. And so right now it's at 12 feet and they would frame in another 3 feet and another 3 feet for a 6-foot opening for pocket doors. But we sort of panicked about that because once it's all open, we were like, I don't know if we want to close that up. So we took a bunch of measurements, we went back to the drawing boards on the computer, laid some things out, came back to the house and set up a temporary fake kitchen, which we're known to do many times in the process, where clients start to worry because the minute things get opened up and then they start to feel closed in again, people get really worried about clearances, and we are no exception, even though we do this for a living. So the whole idea here is to create as much flexible space as possible because it's a small apartment. And we need to be able to have transitional spaces that work for both things. So our final decision was to skip the pocket doors and make the opening bigger. So instead of doing a 6-foot pocket door opening, we're going to do an 8-foot cased opening with exterior barn doors. And the way that that's going to work is we can do a 4-foot barn door that slides in front and another 4-foot barn door that slides in front of this wall, leaving us with an 8-foot opening when it's all said and done. The reason for that is because, and this is another thing we're still not decided on, is whether or not this is going to be a table, a dining room table, quote, kitchen table, or an island. So here we are back in the kitchen, and we're basically laying out the kitchen to make sure that everything feels like it's going to work and make sure we're not making any mistakes. The original plan was to have the refrigerator here with open shelves that die into the wall. We're not doing any wall cabinets, which is a little gutsy because you definitely lose some storage. We've got a corner cabinet, a dishwasher, the sink gets centered over 2 windows, and then we've got some counter space, a stove, pot rack on the wall, and then a vintage dish cabinet that's going to go on this wall over here for dishes and pantry stuff. The original plan has this being a kitchen table / dining room table because it's a small apartment and we don't really have room for a dining room unless we're willing to give up our office, which, because we work out of the house, is not an option. So the dining room table will probably double as a conference table or another desk anyway. But right now we're debating on whether or not we want to make this an island. We've always had an island, so it's a little weird to get used to maybe not having one, but we're going to have a lot of counter space on the wall, so we're going to wait and make this decision later. But in the meantime, we've set it up on some sawhorses and some plywood. One of the big debates too is whether or not it should be 7 feet or 8 feet. I want it to be as long and skinny as possible, so this is only 30 inches instead of 36. But one of the things to be concerned about is to put whether or not we have the clearance for chairs on one side or on both sides, or do we do a bench on one side. So the best thing to do is lay it all out. So there's going to be 36 inches between what's the refrigerator right here and the edge of the table or island. There's 48 inches here. This island or table is only going to be 30, which is pretty narrow, but it's preferable and it's more farmhouse style and it's appropriate. There's not going to be any countertops on this wall at all. There's a 12-inch tall cabinet, which is pretty narrow, which is about where this 2x4 is, and then another 36 to 42 inches, depending on how big we make this island or table. And then on this side, there is going to be about 42 inches between the edge of the table and the wall, but this wall is going to be open all the time because it's really just us most of the time, and the only time these doors are going to be closed is when we have guests that stay down here. So for the most part, even if I'm sitting here, this area is always going to be open behind me, so we're going with a little bit narrower than I would in any other setting just because of that. It's a cased opening, it's open. Plus this back door here goes to the back hallway, which is to the front building, which is an area we're very rarely going to use because the area over there is our entrance. So all in all, we love to see what you think. We're going to put floor plans on our blog as well so that you can reference what we're talking about when you look at this big naked space. And please join the conversation on Facebook because we'd love to hear what you think and what your opinions are. Thanks so much.